It is time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, which are full of late updates after the drama in Madrid. Please say, joining us tonight, football writer and broadcaster Henry Winter and Martin Hardy, football writer at The Times. Good evening to you both, gentlemen. Let's run with some of the pages that we've got at the moment. We'll get straight to the game. With The Guardian, I believe we're going to start on this one. Dramatic late Joselu double sends Real to Wembley final. Henry, you've written some brilliant stories. Anything to compare with that drama tonight? What did you make of it?
Well, I mean, it's almost got echoes of Barcelona and Manchester United against Bayern in '99. I mean, not maybe. Well, I mean, that was obviously the final, but I think the later editions would all be focusing on Tuchel. From an English perspective, obviously, why do you take Harry Kane off? I mean, 5 minutes to go, you don't take Harry Kane off, particularly if there's a chance of the game going into extra time and then penalties. You need Kane on there. Kane was fit, he was fine. You know, I could understand Musiala coming off because he was cramping up. But the German media will be all over Tuchel. And also Neuer. I mean, Neuer's mistake, he didn't hold for the equaliser. He didn't hold Vinicius's shot and Joselu, formerly of Stoke and Newcastle United. I don't know how fondly he's remembered there. Martin will cover off the Newcastle side, but I saw him at Stoke, and I mean, he's not really a Stoke legend, but anyway, extraordinary. But those headlines, I'm sure, will change because the Tuchel's decision on Kane was just bizarre.
Yeah, Martin, what's your take on that? There's a picture of Harry Kane on the back page of The Sun. Real sickener, Kane subbed as Joselu takes Jude to Wembley. Was there logic in trying to lock up shop?
As Henry has alluded to there are so many talking points from this game. I'm sure we'll kind of glorify Real Madrid and what this competition means to them and the fact that they just never ever seem beaten. I'm sure we'll come to Joselu as well, this kind of a forward who scored 10 goals in 66 games in English football for Stoke and Newcastle and was never a crowd favourite at either stadium. But in the 85th minute, Thomas Tuchel, and Matt Lord, my colleague, did the story in the Times last week about him being one of the front runners for the Manchester United job. In the 85th minute, you thought Tuchel's survived a really difficult year at Bayern. The league form's been poor. But here he is, he's 5 minutes away from beating Real Madrid at home and getting Bayern Munich to play in the Champions League final against Borussia Dortmund, a game that they would have been the favourites to win. I think Dortmund were about 24, 25 points off top place in the Bundesliga. And everything in his life seemed great. And then he made this substitution and you just thought, why are you taking Harry Kane off? I know what it's saying about a cramping issue for Musiala, but you've just absolutely obliterated your strike force. Kane can hold the ball up. I've never ever known fatigue in games. He can win fouls. And as Henry said, there's a chance this game is going to head to a penalty shootout. And he won like the ice cold penalty shootout king that is Harry Kane to be in amongst them. And he took them both off. And he thought, you've just given everything away here to a team that is noted for coming on late. As it happens, I think we played, 15, 16 minutes of injury time. So there was 20 minutes left in the game when he made those substitutions. And pretty much from there, Tuchel, this might be a sliding door moment for Thomas Tuchel because he has a harder sell to the Manchester United fans as the failed Bayern Munich manager who blew the chance to beat Real Madrid at home. And he then makes that decision within a matter of minutes. There's a mistake by his goalkeeper who's 38, Joselu who's 34. It does feel a little bit like we're kind of in strange financial times for football. I mean, it kind of feels like the austerity Champions League when we've got Joselu coming on and Eric Dyer playing and Boateng playing, the former Stoke player, and we've got all these players having key moments in the competition. Neuer makes two mistakes for the first goal, and before you know it, the 90,000 with the roof shut at the newly finished home of Real Madrid is going berserk, and the second goal comes. I think about 5 minutes later, Tuchel gets booked. Another member of his staff got booked late in the game. Now he has to face the German media and the implications from the English media. And now he has a harder sell to become the next manager of Manchester United when we think Erik ten Hag leaves. So the implications from tonight from many perspectives are huge.
What about Carlo Ancelotti, Henry? Martin, talking about the stats of Joselu in English football. He lets Karim Benzema go to Saudi last summer, brings in Joselu, gets him to a Champions League final. Ancelotti can do no wrong, can he?
The most successful manager and player probably in history, I think. And also one of the nicest, most conscientious, most perspective-filled managers that you could ever meet. I mean, he was famous with the English press pack. Whenever he saw us, he would just sort of recommend restaurants for us to go to. I mean, he's just a very incredibly civilized man. You saw his celebration at the end. There's a lot of sort of grace and dignity to him. So he should absolutely be celebrated for his achievements as a wonderful player, as a wonderful coach, and as a wonderful man. I mean, to deal with the Real Madrid job, and also we're talking about calmness. I mean, I don't know if you saw Jude Bellingham's interview afterwards, but there's not a shred of nerve in him. I mean, he's just absolutely remarkable. So, look, there are two sides to this. Again, this sort of English-centric story as we're casting it. The sort of the Kane disappointment, but Bellingham, the emotional element of going to Wembley to play Jude's joy. You see it there. He's in Wembley final, but it's pain for Kane. So he's in Wembley final against his old team, against one of his friends in Sancho as well. So, there's going to be so much focus on that. I mean, I guess the one good thing for Southgate is that Harry Kane, his most important player, gets a rest. But Jude Bellingham, and he was just fantastic tonight. It wasn't so good, I thought, in the first leg, but, there's something about him and Real Madrid. He was talking about the fact that he feels at home here, a little bit like Sancho with Dortmund. But he's just at one there. Clubs of that size can crush players. But he's got the strength of character, and England are lucky to have him in Real Madrid as well. So Jude's joy sums it up.
What about the column inches, Martin, that are going to be written about Jude Bellingham? Do you anticipate ahead of this final at the home of English football against his former club, Borussia Dortmund? It's quite a dramatic tale in the making.
The one thing with Jude, there's lots of things with Jude Bellingham, but you just have to remind yourself how young he is when he speaks. He seems to have the maturity of about a 30-year-old. He plays with that kind of knowledge as well. And touching on Carlo Ancelotti, perhaps we're going through a period where the manager on the sideline who's successful doesn't have to go bananas and start ranting and raving. I think it was about 75 minutes gone in that tie. And he kind of characterised coolness, believing in his team. And even, in that selection of Bellingham on the left, playing a more left-sided role, less of the heroics with Vinny Jr. down the middle and Rodrigo down the middle. And he went through all the work that had to be done in that position, no complaints. As soon as the game comes over, he's got his Real Madrid top on with, I assume it was alluding to the possibility of a 15th European Cup victory for Real Madrid. And then he speaks, with such maturity about what's just happened, despite the fact that this is the greatest moment of his career so far. And the implications of playing in England against his old club. And it just all seems to be taken in his stride. He has incredible confidence. And I guess that's why we're predicting that this is really going to be one of the stars of the future. He just, at the minute, whatever he touches seems to go to gold.
Henry, you pointed out that headline, Kane pain. Final word on the England captain. Could this in any way be a positive for England, that Kane gets a rest and perhaps will be even more motivated in the summer?
We spoke to him early in the season, and he was talking about the possibility of a Hollywood season script for him in terms of playing for Bayern Munich and winning at Wembley, and then playing for England and winning in Berlin. What a double that would be. But look, anyone who knows Harry Kane knows that he will respond to this. But Jude Bellingham is not a star of the future. He's a star of now. And I just love the way he's so grounded. Huge credit to Birmingham, their coaching, the importance of the EFL in developing players. Huge credit to his parents. But just absolutely, England are so blessed to have a player of his substance. And it would be great to see him rampaging all over Bundesliga pitches in the summer for England.
It absolutely is. Henry, Martin, what a game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Telegraph. Is the 777 partners takeover of Everton at risk of collapse? You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you. It's welcome back as well to football writer and broadcaster Henry Winter and Martin Hardy, football writer at The Times. Martin, come to you to talk Everton after the excitement of the previous part. More of a sombre note here, I suggest. Everton takeover on the brink of collapse. Moshiri holds crisis talks with 777 over funding fears, and Miami firm facing lawsuits and claims of unpaid bills. What is your take on this situation? If it is to collapse, is it best that it happens quickly?
Well, I'm not sure any of this has happened particularly quickly, given that the deal was struck last September. And here we are. We are told, we've reported in the Times, as I think several papers may have now, that Moshiri's had kind of, you would have to call it crisis talks with representatives from 777 partners and trying to, and for the first time, I think he's admitted that he may pull the plug on this deal. And you're looking at a club about to move to a brand new stadium with doubts over finance, with debts to be repaid. We're told that 7 partners have a problem with the Belgian side Standard Liège in terms of a potential mispayment on a signing back in April. Everton, from the Everton fans' perspective, would say thankfully they haven't been relegated this season. Otherwise, the whole thing could have come tumbling down. But this is a worrying development. And people who know Moshiri better than me say he can change his mind for sure and can make big decisions. But this has gone on so long now that it's threatening Everton's short-term future. For the good of the club, something has to be done very, very quickly in terms of the funding for Bramley Dock, the debts that have to be paid to creditors at the moment. And I think the supporters who have been pushing particularly hard for this need some clarity as to what's going to happen next for their football club.
Absolutely. We saw Moshiri doubts take over the back page of the Times earlier, Henry, and inside the Telegraph, that story flashed up from Tom Morgan. Moshiri has a chance to claw back credit by cutting 777 ties. Do you think there is an easy resolution here? Is it another bidder coming in quickly to the fray?
Well, who is there? I mean, people talk about, there might be other interested parties. I mean, let's hope there are, because Everton are a famous historic club, passionate fan base. As Martin says, they're going into this amazing new stadium. And, they need some security. I mean, we use the word credit to the fans for protesting, for continuing to message the Premier League and Moshiri and 777, who some of them call 999, with good reason. And also for the writers at Josimar, who've been on this from the word go, highlighting the concerns. And again, this is another reason, we have an issue with owners in this country, and we have to protect these great football clubs, not simply the ones in the elite division, but down through the pyramid and into non-league. And that's one of the reasons why people are backing a regulator to come in, just to make sure that these owners just cannot, even before they come in, that people keep an eye on them. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like Everton might have dodged a bullet here if this deal gets called off.
Indeed, Paul Joyce, writing in your paper, Martin, Moshiri doubts over takeover. A piece here says that they're still yet to satisfy the Premier League's owners and directors test, our 777 partners. Could we be sleepwalking into a real crisis over the summer at Everton? What's your read on the situation? How serious is it?
Well, as Henry says, you have to find a buyer for the football club, and that might not be as easy as people are saying. And if there had been 2 or 3 at the outset, then Moshiri might have gone in a different direction. I think there is a suggestion there might be 2 interested parties potentially coming in, but it's not going to take 2 minutes to prove funding, to go through the club's books, to do due diligence. And before you know it, I think it's the start of next season is when they'll be moving to the new stadium. You'd want all of this resolved for then, so the club could have an upbeat feel to it. But, you look at takeovers that take a long time. Newcastle's took, a year and a half before it was finally sealed when PIF, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, took an 80% majority shareholding in the club. They're not things that are done in 2 minutes. And I think there is a lot more scrutiny done now, certainly at Premier League level, to make sure that the owners that come in aren't going to bankrupt the football club. And that does seem to be one of the issues here about funding levels and, can they see through the deal that they've agreed? Erring on the side of caution will frustrate the supporters, but by the same token, they don't want an owner in place that can't take their club forward.
Yeah, let's come to you in a second, Henry. But I just want to come back to you quickly with the Times. Another piece regarding Chelsea in a battle to meet UEFA financial rules if they qualify for Europe. It's a familiar theme, isn't it, around ownership and perhaps not getting the money spending right there?
I know it's been a season where we're talking more about clubs' finances and football and financial figures rather than actual goal scorers or points in the league table. But yeah, Martin Ziegler has written the story that says if you're going to head into the Europa League or the Conference League is kind of what Chelsea might be pushing for, they may not have the same flexibility in terms of what they can do with the level of loss that they have incurred, and also the fact that a rule was brought in Chelsea. I mean, as we saw, brought players on these really 7-8 year long contracts to kind of spread the cost of paying these players. The 115 million for Caicedo or Fernandes as well, to spread over 7-8 years. Well, that's not a bit of bookkeeping I think you can do in Europa League, a loophole that was closed. You may be looking at a similar problem for Aston Villa as well, should they not finish in the top four. They've announced, I think, a £190 million loss. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But increasingly, European football, English football, right the way across the board, so much of it now is dependent upon how the club's finances are structured in terms of whether or not it's allowed to compete and whether or not it's allowed to sign top players.
Complicated picture, isn't it, financially? Henry, brilliant to see your cat looking well at this time of the evening as well. My one always pops up at this time as well. Let's talk about Hull, Henry, something you've been, I know, active on social media and written a piece on. Hull owner, been on Sky Sports News, June Ilagilla, has said that Liam Rosenior was sacked over stylistic issues and said that they're still getting on well. What's your take on the Rosenior situation at Hull?
Yeah, I think it's a bit harsh for an owner to say that, because anyone who knows Liam Rosenior knows that the teams that he played for, the way that he wanted to play football, the type of players that he was able to bring in on loan. It was a heavy possession based team, but he wanted to attack. I mean, that's the way. He's of that generation, almost like sort of pet disciples who want to play a certain way, and it's very much front foot. So I wouldn't describe him in any way just because he was a fullback as a player. I wouldn't describe him as a defensive coach. So I thought that was a little bit harsh. I just think that whoever Hull City get in, and you wish them luck. The new man has to hit the ground running, because Liam Rosenior was highly regarded. He's highly respected in the game. I mean, it's no coincidence that some of the players that he had on loan came from Liverpool and Manchester City, because Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp trusted this progressive young coach, Liam Rosenior, with their players. So, sorry, this cat is. I hope it brings them some luck. It's more of a Sunderland than a black cat.
She wants a bit of love.
I just hope they get some luck with their appointment. But I think from a general English perspective, you want to see young coaches given a chance. I mean, just up the road, I'm so close to where Martin is. Michael Carrick, obviously, is a bigger name as a player. He's got an owner there who is backing him. He didn't get in the playoffs, and he's gradually sort of building in the Championship. So look, give them time. When Liam Rosenior came into Hull City, they were at risk of relegation, and he got them 7th. So effectively, he's just missed out by one place on effectively what he was being asked to do. So I think there's a lot of sympathy for him and pressure on the new man.
Mark, what's your take on it? I know it's probably a little bit south of your patch just about, but do you feel it is a harsh expectation that's been put on Rosenior, given the turnaround Henry talks about there?
He's a young English progressive coach that was doing really well and came into a club that was one place off a relegation position, and turns them around, but gives a suggestion of longevity into the style he played. So they played Leeds recently and got beat, but they were the team that were dominating the ball in the second half, and they had increasingly these days, I would say, not just owners, although not this owner, and fans as well, want a certain identity to the way their team plays football. Liam Rosenior was doing that and doing it well, and you could see the development in the team, and a new contract gets signed. Sometimes you look at football clubs' decisions and you just scratch your head because you can't quite understand what they've done or why they've done it. This felt like one yesterday when it came through, whether or not somebody is in the background waiting to take over, but they were moving everything in the right direction. You looked at the stadium was full for games at the end of last season against Ipswich. A few years ago, they went through the doldrums after coming out of the Premier League. So to get the club back into that position and to get the fans back on board, creating momentum at a football club is really difficult. And I sometimes think owners forget that. You kind of mess around with the momentum and at your own peril. And as Henry said, Michael Carrick, I think, is doing a very good job at Middlesbrough as well. And I would expect them to push for promotion next season. It takes time. It takes time to implement your style, and it takes time to develop a team to get near to the playoffs. And I think sometimes all of us need to remember that.
Absolutely. I think it's well said there. Let's talk about a veteran who perhaps the winning days are behind him. Andy Murray, though, in The Guardian. He's going to be playing the Geneva Open. Henry, we're hopeful that he'll be in the French Open, possibly Wimbledon as well. Could this be a feel-good story over the summer if he can keep these injuries at bay?
I always read these stories and people are trying to rush Andy Murray into retirement. He knows his body. It's his career. It's his life. He will know how long he can go on for. I think he's a fantastic role model. Not only as an individual, but I just love his sporting approach to overcoming adversity, overcoming injury, just keeping on going. And what's he, 36 years old? And it's fantastic. And so, long may it continue with Andy Murray.
Absolutely. Got a few back pages as well in the Express. Harry 0, Potter 2, Stoke Old Boy, Hosselu, Rex, Kane Stream with late double blast. Just a few papers coming into us late on here. And Joss the Job, Jude, Real Late Show sends Bellingham to final. And M.A. May teases Emery. So we're hoping that Emi Martinez plays for Villa. And the Mirror is Bernabeu. 2-goal Hosselu pulls off miracle to sink Harry. Brilliant. Henry, Martin, in a word before you go, one each. Time is pressing. Henry, who wins the Champions League?
Real.
And Martin?
Real, comfortably.
Yeah, poor old Borussia Dortmund won't win their third final. Real, 15th time champions. Henry Winter and Martin Hardy, thank you for being on Back Pages tonight. We will see you again very soon. Well, if you missed any of the show, thanks for watching, by the way. Another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. And the show is also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us again on Thursday night. Jonathan Liu from The Guardian, Sam Dean from The Telegraph. Join us for that one.